Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be talking about a second adaptation, and this is the gills that are found in fish. So the gills are the equivalent of lungs to fish. It says fish have gills that allow them to breathe oxygen in water. So oxygen goes in and out of water. It kind of melts into the water and stuff, and it's there, and it can evaporate away as well. Water enters the mouth, passes over the gills, so it just kind of, flows over the gills, and exits the body through a special opening. Gills absorb oxygen from the water as it passes over them. So they don't have to take it into their body, like inside the organ. It just flows over it and they're able to pull water out. And we're doing that because in 7.12a, the TEK, it specifically says that you should know about gills and how gills are an adaptation that allow fish to live underwater. So those are the gills that you see here, these kind of pinkish reddish. The water is coming out, it's coming in through his mouth, it's going over these gills and then flowing out. When it flows over the gills pull in the oxygen and then they release carbon dioxide, just like you do. You pull in oxygen to your lungs, you breathe out carbon dioxide. So that's the advantage of why fish keep moving all the time, is so water will continuously flow over their gills and they can pull in the oxygen. Why do I do that every time? Alrighty, so the water again comes in through the mouth. It goes over these gills. So these gills are sort of like a ruffle. And it allows, if you took this ruffle and you flattened it out, it would be huge. But because it's in this ruffle shape, you can make it more compact, smaller. So the water is going through over these areas where you see it's really red. Why? Because all the blood vessels are there. And remember, your blood vessels are what pick up oxygen from your lungs. It's picking up oxygen from its gills to then take to the rest of the body.
Unlike land animals, almost all fish breathe or get their oxygen from water. Instead of using lungs, fish breathe with organs called gills. Most fish have 4 pairs of gills enclosed in a gill chamber on each side of the head. On the outside of the body, a flap of bone called a gill cover protects the gills of bony fish. To get oxygen, fish gulp water through the mouth and pump it over the gills. In many fish, the breathing process begins when the gill covers close and the mouth opens. The walls of the mouth then move inward. The mouth partially closes and the gill covers open. This action forces the water from the mouth into the gill chambers. The inside of each gill consists of fleshy, thread-like filaments. Water from the mouth passes over the filaments. The filaments are closely spaced along a gill arch in 2 rows. Each filament has many tiny extensions called lamellae. Blood flowing through the lamella takes oxygen from the water and releases carbon dioxide into the water. After the fish receives its oxygen, the water passes out through the gill openings and the breathing process begins again. Unlike land animals,
Alrighty, so how does that look in cartoon form here? Well, as we're saying, here's H2O, and it is going into the fish's mouth, and its targeted are the gills that are here inside, but they're slits, they're opening as you saw. So the water flows in. When it does, the oxygen goes into the gill, so it keeps the oxygen. So the hydrogen that was part of the H2O, it flows away, and so does the carbon dioxide that had been in the fish's body. That's how it gets rid of it. The H2O comes in, the oxygen is kept, the carbon dioxide is released out. So the oxygen stays in the gills, gets absorbed then by the circulatory system. So instead of picking oxygen up at the lungs, the circulatory system picks up the oxygen at the gills and then taken to every cell in that fish's body. Oops.
Hello, and welcome to Samples for School's Fish Dissection. This dissection aims to look at the fish gills and how they're used in gas exchange. I'm going to be dissecting an entire mackerel. Your sample can be of a larger fish and just the head if you'd prefer. In order for the fish to obtain oxygen from the water, it takes water in through its mouth and out through the operculum, the gill cover, forcing the water over the gill. So we can show the direction of water movement by opening up the mouth structure and watching the flow out through the gill cover. The direction of water is maintained by the opening and closing of the fish mouth, which can change the pressure inside the buccal cavity. The floor of the mouth can move up and down to increase the pressure and force the water down through the gills. To examine the fish gills, we can remove the gill flap, the operculum, and this can be done simply by cutting down with the scalpel. Once the operculum has been removed, we can see the full gill structure underneath. You can then make incisions to remove this entirely as well. The structure of the gills are made up of these gill filaments, which increase surface area for gas exchange and are held by the gill arch. When the fish gills are in air, you can see that the filaments clump together and it has a reduced surface area. When you put them in water, the filaments fan out, much like a feather. This gives maximum surface area for gas exchange. Following on from your gill dissection, you can also cut down laterally to explore the skeleton and find the swim bladder. For more ideas, lesson plans and risk assessments, please see our website www.samplesforschool.co.uk.
Alrighty. So again, instead of breathing air or getting their oxygen from the air, the fish have to get their oxygen from the water. Now, water doesn't have or hold as much oxygen as the atmosphere does. So their adaptation is being able to just, as they're swimming, water is hitting their gills and pulling the oxygen out from it. And again, you saw how it was all those sort of like little strands and stuff like ruffled in there. That is a big surface area where they can, it gives them more opportunity, every oxygen or water atom that they hit, they are able to remove oxygen from the water. And then there's also just O2 floating in the water. There's just plain oxygen floating in the water. So it says that process requires lots of water to be going over the surface of the gills for them to have enough or get enough oxygen into their bodies using their mouths and gills. And again, their whole goal is to absorb that oxygen from the water. So that's the end of our notes, but I have a question here for you. What is the largest animal found in water? What does it look like? Yeah, big blue whale. And the question over there is, do you think it has really large gills? How big do you think the gills of a whale are? So that's a trick question, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe some of y'all realize that whales are not fish. They don't have gills. They have lungs like you and I, which is why they have to go up to the surface to get oxygen, breathe in oxygen through the blowhole on top of their backs, and then they can dive again. Alrighty, guys, that is the end. So please answer the exit question. And don't forget that you have to turn in all missing work by tomorrow because report cards for progress reports go out on Friday. Thank you again. Have a good day.